All right, just a quick disclaimer here. These videos posted or actually being used here at the Rookie Scouting Portfolio Film Room are not hosted on any server of mine, and the original video content's not considered the property of the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. The video is considered to be used under the Fair Use Doctrine, the United States Copyright Law, Title 17, U.S. Code, Sections 107 through 118. Videos are used on this program for editorial and educational purposes only, and the Rookie Scouting Portfolio and its staff do not claim ownership to any original video content. The Rookie Scouting Portfolio Film Room and its staff don't use any of these videos in advertisements, marketing for direct financial gain. All of this video in each clip is considered owned by the individual broadcast companies, and I'm using cut-ups of a 10-minute video of a football game so that my guest and I can watch and comment and educate each other and educate the public who are viewing this. So with that mouthful over, I am Matt Waldman. This is the Rookie Scouting Portfolio Film Room, number 34, and my guest today is Josh Liskiewitz of GM Junior. And I'm really happy to have Josh aboard. The GM Junior crew is a terrific group of analysts who do a fine bit of work. They pride themselves, as I would probably say, as the 33rd scouting department of the NFL. They give a vast amount of coverage. And you know, I've met Josh a number of years ago at the Senior Bowl, and it's always been a pleasure to be able to hang out with him and the GM Junior guys when we've had the opportunity. And Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt. Pleasure to be on.
Great. Well, tell me a little bit about, and tell everybody else a little bit about how you got into this, why, and how did you get involved with the GM Junior guys, and you know, and then also why Landon Collins today. This is who we're going to be watching.
Sure. I got started probably 7-8 years ago. I took a class called Football General Manager and Scouting through Sports Management Worldwide. That's smww.com. They have all kinds of classes on that site. You can get actual college credit for any of the youngins listening in, and I'm not that old, but I feel I'm old enough to call them youngins, so I apologize if anyone's offended by that. But you name it, they have it there. Agent certification, regular sports management. If you want to do cricket, by all means, do cricket. MMA is a new big one there. But part of the class, besides learning all the real basics of scouting each position, the CBA, all that good stuff, part of the class was you get an hour-long chat each week with an expert in the field. And the expert for my class was some guy named Russ Landy, who, of course, for anyone who doesn't know, was a NFL scout for about 10 years for St. Louis and for Cleveland until the whole Butch Davis stuff went awry, and he decided to actually break off himself and do his own thing. He's been with Sporting News, National Football Post, et cetera, et cetera. But what I did was, instead of just taking the 8 weeks of the class, I continued to attend his chats each week long after the class was done, built a rapport with him. Eventually, he invited me to his house one weekend. We watched some film. That was when he lived in New Jersey, and I'm here in Maryland, so it was a quick and easy drive for me. And then he invited me to the Senior Bowl, and that's been about it. I've been working with him ever since. That was probably since 2009. So this was probably the sixth, I think, Senior Bowl. Sixth straight Senior Bowl I was at, even though I just had a kid 2 weeks before. So I'm
that's dedication right there.
Yes, that's right. Priorities first. Come on.
Well, your wife is a kind soul. I will say that for sure.
Well, I hit it out of the park on that one. I long outkicked my coverage, I guess you could say, to keep it in football terms. The reason why I wanted to talk about Landon Collins is I think he's an interesting prospect simply because it's pretty much universal that he's going to go somewhere in the first or second round, and he's a guy that I actually view as a early fourth round value. I don't think he's truly an NFL starter. And I'm known for having these radical, crazy opinions just to get attention. And I think this is a great opportunity for people to kind of see my thought process on how I look at a prospect like Collins and a position like safety, which is difficult for anybody to look at, especially when you're generally using just broadcast film.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what it is that you are looking for us in safeties, both in general and specific to what Landon Collins' skill sets are, to give people a little bit of a preview of what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. First, I want to start with just the basics. What does he look like physically? The height, weight, speed, all that stuff. What are his movement skills? Can he flip his hips? Can he accelerate in and out of his cuts? Can he break and close on the ball? Just the real basic athletic physical stuff. Then from there, I want to talk about the instincts he's shown. What is he seeing? Is he able to read and recognize not just pass plays from zone or off, but also run plays? Can he come up and support the run? When he's supporting the run, how does he look as a tackler? Is he out of control? Does he pull an Earl Thomas where he's just diving everywhere? Or is he a consistent guy that can break down in space and make those kind of plays?
Excellent, excellent. So for those of you who are new to the RSP Film Room, what we're doing here is we're just going to watch and comment on what we see. There may be dead air, there may be a few plays where we don't talk about anything, or we may be talking about everything that we see to wider, wider, broad-ranging topics about the safety position or football in general. We're going to watch a lot of this in half speed. And everything that we're watching is brought to us by Draft Breakdown, it's just a terrific site for media, giving the chance to be able to analyze film. And if you're a fan and you want to get a chance to learn a little bit more about the position, there's really few things out there right now on the internet that are better than to be able to just go to their site, look up a name, and sort it by position and decide what you're going to learn about that day. So that's what we're going to looking at here. And Josh, can you see the screen with Landon Collins started up here already? Are we all set up?
I sure can. Yep.
All right, then I'm going to go ahead and freeze this, get this ready to go, and we are going to get started right now. It looks like our first thing is going to be a special teams play.
Okay.
Let me get started here. Do one more time. This is a pretty nice, decisive play there.
Yeah.
And he adjusts well in terms of, accounting for the possibility of that returner being able to make a move and isn't too wild there.
Yep, that was an example of him breaking down in space. I like to see what happened at the line of scrimmage, how he got so free. Did he put a move on a guy? Did he put a guy on his ass? Did he just get a free rein?
Yeah, and let's see if we can even locate him. Let's see. He was the up man here, and he made a...
Okay.
Yeah. Or no, it was 26. It was 25.
Yeah, 26.
26. All right, so let's find 26 here real quick. This looks like that might be our man right here, but I can't seem to see.
He's got to be on the left. He's got to be coming from the left.
Yeah,
it's got to be him right there.
There it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of space, and he cut inside of that guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Typically, that's this is a nice play, and you don't want to take anything away from him here. But in the context of the NFL, you're not going to see a gunner just running free like that.
Yeah. Very good point. All right, so let's go ahead and you just let me know if you want me to freeze anything or go from there.
Hey, going back to what I originally said, you want to look at the safety position. You can kind of see the first couple of plays. He's not Earl Thomas in terms of size. He's got some good bulk. He's got some height, and obviously they like him enough to at least let him at least try to throw his weight around up in the box.
Yeah. And you can even see just comparatively to the other linebackers
Oh, yeah,
here.
exactly. Yeah, he looks the same size as 33 there.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, it sounds very much like common sense, but these are little tricks of the trade before you get measurements and before we go to any of these all-star games or get any, you can look at a guy's height and weight, and then you can look at some of these other guys that they're playing with and see if that approximately matches what the program says.
Safety was a position I used to struggle with a ton, especially the guys that weren't in the box, just because you can't see them that much. And a former scout, Matt Littlefield, who used to scout for the Rams and for the Jaguars, is a good friend of Russ's and mine. And actually, can you back that up while I'm talking? Okay, I'd like to see where he came from here. I want to say that when I looked at the all-22 version of it, it looked like he saw the play right away, but was a half-second late breaking on it, and that's why it looks like he didn't quite get there as quick as he could have.
Yeah, and you have him
now
right
you also
here.
see the quarterback look him off.
Yep.
The quarterback's looking to the right, gets in there, and he's just a step late. That's incomplete, not because of him, but because the receiver either dropped it or Five made the play. I couldn't tell there.
Sure. So tell me a little bit about what you were talking about with Matt.
Yeah. What Matt said is just keep it simple. Keep to the basics of it. Don't get overwhelmed by trying to figure out where he is at all times, what kind of coverage he's in, and all that. That stuff will come to you in time. Just figure the basics out first. That's the important stuff. So in this case, the height, weight, speed, all that good stuff.
And we'll get another view of this.
There you go. This should be a little bit better. Yeah, he was definitely looking at the quarterback there because you could see him take a false step to the left.
Yep.
And then ended up making him a step late to the ball.
Can you tell me a little bit about when you're looking at a safety or a defensive back covering the slot, what are some things that you might want to be looking for that are different about facing a slot receiver as opposed to working outside or just playing a zone in the middle?
Well, I think in general it's usually a chance to look at him in all types of covers. Oftentimes, if you have a safety that's deep and out of the area, you're seeing a lot of cover two, some type of zone look from him. If he's up in the slot like that, you're probably going to get a good look at his skills in terms of if he's playing man off, or maybe even if you're real lucky, he'll jump up the line of scrimmage and play some press as well. So it's just an opportunity to see some reps of him doing things different than you would normally see from a traditional cover two safety.
Right. And I would imagine, having Scott Bischoff last week, one of the things that we talked about is certainly, I think a common theme with anybody that's on this show is we're watching numerous games so that we can see as many reps as possible. So, one rep where he doesn't show good press technique it may not be representative of the whole with what he does.
That is correct. And looking back at my notes on him, I looked at 7 games of his. Which is pretty average for a safety for me.
Good deal. I liked the angle he initially took.
Yeah.
And he was pretty quick to diagnose what was going on. He's reading the quarterback, and then once he spots it, you're just getting that nice angle that's going to come right over the top here.
Yep. He took maybe a half step late squaring up, and that guy almost beat him on that cutback.
Yeah. And
you can see his pads just aren't square to the ball carrier.
Yeah.
You look where his angles. You can still read his numbers. I mean, again, credit him. He makes the play. But those are things you look at in an NFL context, and you want to say, okay, I want to see that a few more times. Is that an issue, or it just happened to be this particular play? Is he pretty consistent making that play?
Right. And then there's also I would imagine too, there's a comfort level with athleticism here, knowing who you are and
Sure.
what you can and can't do. And I think that that's something that's a sign of good football players, whether they're great prospects or just middle of the round draft prospects. Is, I always talk about this from an offensive perspective, but it could be defense as well. If you're a tackler, do you know what angles you can and cannot hit and cannot get to? And I think he knows that this man's going to be too quick for him if he's not cautious about the angle. And he might be a little too cautious there at one point, but at the same time, like you said, he wasn't even turned at this stage.
Right. No, and that's a great point of understanding your own limitations in terms of angles. We see that a lot with linebackers. That's something I look at often at that position, because it's obviously it's so important, especially when you're trying to define what a guy is in terms of, if you're looking at an inside linebacker, is he a guy that needs to be covered up, have a little bit less space to work with in the 34 as an inside guy, or can he free roam as a middle linebacker sideline to sideline in a 43? Part of that's going to be the kind of angles he can take to the ball.
And now we got a little bit of him playing in the box once again.
Yep.
No, I mean, I think it's a common theme in football in general. I mean, you have running backs who are big guys with the ability to use their body and run through people who try too hard to be scat backs.
Yep.
And you have quarterbacks who try too hard to thread the needle on passes where they need a little bit more touch or need to go make a different choice. I think that's just a part of youth and confidence and athleticism that needs to be, it takes some maturing.
Sure. It's such a fine line too, because then you get into situations where you get like a Vic Beasley, speed rushing off the edge consistently, and then people think he's a one-trick pony. Well, when the fact of the matter is, if you watch 7, 8, 9 games of his, he shows you everything, but he's able to consistently win at such a high rate at the college level that that's generally his go-to move. So the question will be with a guy like that is, does he adjust in the NFL and show more of the skill set?
Yeah.
Not to get off on a tangent, but that's the kind of things you need to look at in a contextual sense at all the positions.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very good point. We'll watch this play one more time here, because we get a chance to see him take an angle. I felt like he hedged this angle a bit, and that it kind of cost him, because when he saw where I think a player who's a little bit more confident in his athleticism probably would have made a beeline right into that gap over here, and he
really tries to stack that blocker maybe.
Yeah.
That guy's a little bit bigger than him, but really he should be attacking him upfield.
Yeah.
And that's at least an extra 5 yards because of that.
Yeah. Right here. I mean, this is where it's like, boom, you should be.
Go get it.
Yeah, you should be right in this area where I'm circling at least within the next 2 steps. Instead,
especially a guy that's really instinctual, he's noticed that the back's already made his cut inside.
Yes. Great point.
He's not going to take the boundary at that point. Plus, if you know who your back is you're against, that's not a super speedy guy that should be able to take the edge on you there. So you just got to attack him.
Yeah, and we're going to get to see it again from here. So,
yeah, it's very clear at that point, and yet he's a couple steps late attacking.
Yeah. And knowing he's got help, he slaps at the ball, but still, I mean, I like that he's thinking about things like that, but at the
Yep.
same token, it's like
Same
little
point, you're in the
consolation.
open field, you better make that play first.
Yes, exactly.
It's not
Even
like
if
he's
you
got to
have
come to
help.
the boundary or at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. And even if he has help to the inside, it's those types of plays that end up being big plays because of bad tackling, where you
Right.
think, well, this guy will help me.
How does 27 undercut it when he did not?
Yeah. Now he's accounting for this bottom slot, man.
Yeah.
But
That looked like a more of a zone look the way he dropped off like that.
yeah. And it's interesting. Maybe it looks like we're gonna get a different look, but it's interesting that I mean, he really turned his back to the quarterback at this stage too. So he's playing the man on in that situation rather than playing the ball.
Yep. There he is. He's going to be late on this one, too. I mean, that ball's thrown behind him, and he's still 2 steps late.
Yeah, not much of a tackle either.
No.
I mean, this is the kind of tackle that in the pro game you know a Calvin Johnson over the middle or an Andre Johnson in his prime, they bounce off this, and it doesn't even have to be a guy that big, can bounce off that,
Oh,
spin
yeah.
off it, and they are up the seam and gone.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, he just about broke that.
I mean, Antonio Brown bounces off tackle.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think and that's the point that you brought up originally, and to begin this show, which is you got to look for things that happen in the pro game, and I'm just curious how much NFL tape do you study during the season or intermittently? What is it what are you looking at from the NFL? Maybe you're not going through the same process studying it like you do with college, but I would imagine that there's a good bit of that goes on with your process.
Yeah, I don't sit around and break down a ton of NFL film every year, but at the same token, I kind of watch it with the same eye. So
Yeah.
I might not be just watching, the quarterback, where is he throwing to? I might be interested in particular players or particular things going on. I tend to, the month of preseason, I'll take a look at rookies from each of the teams, and usually my stuff's somewhere floating around the internet on that. So I'll hone in on a few particular guys. But when I watch a game, I'm looking at it in terms of these things, and it does help, like you said, give me some context in terms of what are we seeing at the college level, what do that translates, what do they need to be doing at that level in order to translate.
Yeah.
One other point while I'm thinking of it, I want to bring up too, that we've certainly seen on a couple of them already, but just because you see a guy in frame, especially at a position like corner, safety, wide receiver, just because he's involved in some aspect doesn't mean that, oh, that's my opportunity, I have to write a ton of notes on this. You might not get that much out of a play, and that's okay. It's with those positions, you're just going to have to face it that in order to scout them properly, you're going to have to watch 6, 7, 8, 9 games of film on them. And sometimes you're just not going to be able to figure out what happened there. So instead of making a mistake, move on to the next play.
That's a great point. This is another hit first where the hit comes and the wrap doesn't follow.
Yeah.
Again, a little thing, there might be reason, but
See, we've seen this, what, 4 or 5 times now
Yeah,
in one game, and that's for a guy that is supposed to be that box safety, which should basically be a swear word at this point.
right.
It's the way the NFL's played. For a box safety that doesn't wrap up consistently, that leaves his feet, that doesn't necessarily take great angles, that should be terrifying.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and it's a good explanation as to why this guy in your book is a fourth round player as opposed to a first round
Mm-hmm.
player, because you would want a first round player like this. You're thinking of someone who's an enforcer at the line of scrimmage, someone that alters the game plan because you have this guy who's as steady of a tackler and disruptive as a linebacker, but should be faster, should be quicker to the ball, should be, and then if and at worst, and then if you do call a pass, he can drop faster and make a play on you as a pass defender.
Yep, absolutely.
Are there any examples to you of in-the-box safeties who still exist in the NFL, who you feel like are still, they may be a swear word, but they still fit in with what's going on with their team rather well?
Yeah, I think they're a bit of an anomaly at this point, but the first one that comes to mind is the kid in Seattle. Um, just such a
Chancellor,
physical,
yeah.
Cam Chancellor, such a physical guy. But then you watch him, and he can be a force in all types of coverage. Just think about the Super Bowl from a matchup perspective. When he was covering Gronk, generally Brady went elsewhere. As
Yeah,
soon as a linebacker ended up going out on him instead of Chancellor, boom, Brady's going right after him.
yeah.
So that tells you the kind of respect that one of the best of all time has for him. So I think just seeing the way teams exploit matchups and the way they try to go away from him, I think that shows you everything you need to know about him in terms of his coverage ability on top of his ability to enforce in the middle.
Yeah. And on this play here, this is an interesting play to me because I'm not usually one to call out a player's effort, but I notice that he tends to just kind of sit around, and then if he sees that there's an opportunity for to hit really late, he tends to be kind of late
Yeah.
over to situations where he could hustle a little bit more.
I wonder if that one, if his primary read was the quarterback there, looking at a read option type play, but at the same time, it should have come to a point on there where he's attacking downhill, especially when you're on the goal line, because you need everybody flowing to the ball at that point.
Especially right here. Like, this is the point where
it should be very obvious because the quarterback's not carrying out any kind of fake.
And what if he does spin away from this, and you're right on top of him? You could actually have done a lot more.
Right. Plus, let's look at the game situation. Now, I understand Alabama has timeouts, but we're at the very end of the half. So every stop here, especially on a rundown like that, is critical because it could be the difference between them going into the half up 19-3 or 19-0 and it being a two-possession game all of a sudden.
Absolutely. All right. They're going to show that again, but I think we've seen enough on this play if you're with me. All right. So
this is one of those where, we can see him, but we're not really getting much out of it, so let's not try and overthink it.
Yep. Now this should be this might be interesting here. He does his part.
Yep, jam the guy at the break point. That's a nice play. Especially down at the goal line, you have to hold your ground. So often in college especially, we'll see in that situation when they're playing off man like that where they'll just retreat into the end zone. And all of a sudden, all they got to do is run a simple little curl, and it's an easy touchdown.
Yeah. All right, so now we'll move to the second half. Got him in the back 7 now. And once again in the back 7. Let's see what we got.
He's taking the back here.
Yep.
Nope. See, he got stuck in no man's land there because first he,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is ugly.
Yeah, that was bad all the way around because it was clear from the get-go that that was his man, and he went up to attack him. Then all of a sudden, his concentration shifted to the quarterback, watching him pump fake downfield. He vacates his man, and then obviously he makes it worse by coming up out of control and just whiffing.
Yeah. And that's a first down.
First down. First down on 2nd and 7 on a little swing pass that could have been a 1-2 yard gain.
Yeah, and this is not a back that you want to give any room to get going, because Josh Robinson is is not an easy guy to bring down.
No, once he gets going, absolutely he's not. Yeah, not a real elusive guy either. He shouldn't be making you eat your strap like that.
No. But don't give this little train, don't give this little engine that could any track.
No. Yeah. He's that low center of gravity, he's just going to blow right through guys at that point once he gets to full speed.
Yeah.
I'm actually a lot lower on Robinson than most people, but I do get the appeal with that, especially when you get into space there.
Right, and I think that's a perfectly reasonable take, no matter what range you're in with it. And I think that I joke around that I'm with you from the skills standpoint. He's not a major skills guy, but and there are a lot of players like this that we probably don't know all the stories to. But I won't bet against a man whose apartment was his Nissan Maxima during high school. So
yeah,
I'm not betting against a guy like that. But at the same time, I'm not going to say that he's going to be a great player either.
I'd assume that had something to do with why he went pro early.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to see if this train gets down the track and what happens.
That's not a very good angle there.
No.
24 makes the play for him.
Yep.
Like coming off his block, but he ran too steep an angle.
Yeah.
And if 8 holds that block, see, look right there, you can see he's got the corner.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a play by 24.
Absolutely. He just cleans it up.
Yep.
We'll get to see it again, it looks like here. Even better angle. It's interesting because it almost looked like he was shading inside a little bit, like betting for a cutback that really didn't come at all.
Yeah, and then you could see he actually takes some false steps here. It's not even necessarily the angle. You could see, look, he's kind of shaping there when he should be attacking.
Yeah. Those 2 steps he took were really the difference on this play in terms of him getting there.
That was an issue I had last year with Clinton Dix. Just false steps all over the place, run, pass, just little things like that where they'd see something and they'd see something else and kind of pause in his head. You kind of see the wheels turning, and by that point it's too late.
How easy is it for a player to clean up these false steps at that position? Is it something that you would say is more difficult because it's more of an instinctive thing, or is it more of an intellectual thing that can be learned because of having more confidence in your reads, more confidence in what's going on around you, and you're thinking less and reacting more?
Sure. In general, I'd say it's tough. A lot of it's instinctual. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. If you look individually at the 2 plays we just talked about, that one is going to be tougher for him to fix. The one before, if it's just a matter of coaches ingraining him, look, you know your assignment, forget about what you think the quarterback wants to do. Go do your role, do your job. The whole Bill Belichick thing. If he just does that on the play before, he's fine.
Yeah, and you're
So
talking about the Josh Robinson catch out of the
yes,
backfield. Yeah, and I think that's a perfect example. It's kind of like I would almost equate it to a quarterback and his ability to move in the pocket. There are going to be some plays where you can tell a quarterback, look, at this stage with pocket presence, when it comes to this, you throw the ball away. In this situation, it might be more difficult to teach a quarterback to climb and slide to a certain direction if they're just not feeling the situation. They're not able to feel the pocket around them with any level of comfort.
yep.
So I think those are great points to draw distinctions between the two. I mean, I'm being really critical of Collins when I say this, but if this is, I don't study a lot of defensive players, so I'm not doing a scouting report on this guy. But if I were, my first impression of him, which this is what it is, my first impression, I'd say he's kind of that guy, I'm making an analogy of like the bully, and the bully always has that kind of remora eel hanger on who who like gets in the extra shot or gets in the free opportunity, but when he's all alone, you could probably take him.
Yep.
He kind of reminds me of that in this Alabama defense, in that he's kind of he's not making any great plays on his own.
Right.
But
Yeah, he's kind of the last guy in.
yeah.
More that's if you really want to get into the safety class, that's Cody Pruitt to a T, the Mississippi
Wow.
safety. He does that all day long. He just happens to be the last guy in on the pile. There's another missed tackle.
Yeah.
Here's something else. We've talked about the angles, the instincts, some of those issues. He also hasn't shown the athleticism needed to recover. Well, whether it's the ability to break down when he's going full speed, or the ability to accelerate and recover when at like the play the play to the boundary where he didn't take the proper angle to cut it off.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: with the combine over, did how did his workouts measure up to what you're looking for from a safety?
You know what? I need to go back and look at his numbers. I want to say he ran around a 4.53, which is very good for the position. I have nothing wrong with that. But in the same sense, I don't think relying on the film portion of it, you ever see any real twitch from him. You don't see any explosion. You don't see him break and close. All of a sudden, him flip his hips and take away space down back on the deep end. I don't see anything real explosive with this game. So when you think about it in those terms, and then you bring into question the instincts and the angles and things like that. Well, if he can't explode and recover, well, what are we really looking at here? That's a dangerous player to have on the field.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at his game, I feel like his game is saying "should I" as opposed to "I should."
Yes, that's a great way to look at it. Yep, we've seen a lot of that, and that was one of the things that frustrated me so much about this game, is that we get to see a lot of him in the box on the slot as a nickel linebacker. We'll see that even more later in this game. It just the hesitancy. He just wasn't sure about where he was, what he's supposed to be doing at times.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can see how if the light went off for him, if the light went on for him when it comes to diagnosis, that he could almost be, I wouldn't say he'd be worth a first round pick, but he could have a fairly decent career. He would need to be able to learn he'd have to be a more consistent tackler.
Yep.
In addition to that, to really become the guy that's worth that first round pick. But certainly, the first things first is he's going to have to become a lot more confident in what he's doing.
Yep, absolutely. That's not bad. I think he got caught a little flat-footed there, but at least he jammed the guy to give him a chance to recover.
Yeah. And I like that he's just focused solely on his man there for a change.
Yep. Yep, exactly.
That was a nice play.
Oh, you know what? I think I know what happened on this play. I think he's actually a step late breaking. The ball gets tipped at the line of scrimmage, so it's quite a ways behind his man.
Yeah. I mean, you see him break and show some decisiveness, but let's see when he should have done that. I mean, I see.
He's beaten right there. That is clear. He is beaten.
And there's the
And the
tip
ball gets
right there.
deflected, and now it's behind him.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's one of those things where you look at the box score, you see the interception, you see the nice diving play, and it all looks great, but you put it in the context of where he should have been on that play.
And it's all the world of difference on really how you grade it. I mean, I find that very similar also with wide receiver play. You can see a lot of wide receivers who you can say, oh, well, they got open on this play and made a really nice diving catch, or they made a play in tight coverage. And if you watch how they began the play and you really look at what good technique and good recognition is, they should have had 2 to 3 steps on that man.
Right.
They should have never had to fight so hard to make the play in the first place.
Absolutely. Yep, that's a great comparison there.
I like the hands, I like the body control, but like you said, it's never should, he should have been a lot closer to the this is what you would almost call a lucky play.
Oh, very much. Oh, it totally was. And again, you look at game scenario. This is red zone, games on the line. This is Mississippi State's chance to get back in.
And he's a good step late.
Yep. And you look at the other safety who's also late coming down there. That might be a touchdown.
Yeah.
If that ball's out front, not tipped.
Let's look at that one more time. So here's our other safety.
Yep. Watch him take that false step the other way. Boom, false step.
Because he catches this, safety's here. It's just a nice little diagonal shot to the last
all kinds of space there. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see if we're going to get to see more of the glory shot. We'll go back and we'll go to the next play here.
Nickel linebacker.
Yep.
That's one of his better plays we've seen.
Yeah. I mean, he gets in the hole.
Yep.
I still don't like how he finishes anything.
No, I know. Yeah, it's not real physical there, is he?
No.
No. And it didn't look like he was so quick upfield he was beating a blocker or that he was taking a blocker head on. He just kind of went untouched through the hole there.
Yeah.
Is this another tip pass? Just a really low one.
Yeah.
It's just late.
Yeah. So I have another question prepared for you in a minute. We'll see what once we get to the end here. I'll ask you again, but it looks like we'll let this play out because we've got probably another 3 to 4 plays at most left in this. All right, here's our man.
Yep.
Let's see what happens.
So he's got his own look there.
Yeah.
As soon as the guy that looked like was going to come into him breaks out, he needs to get depth, because that needs to be just a basic route combo understanding there.
Yep, he needs to read that key, and once he sees an outside move here, zoom, get back there. Instead, it's like he's almost playing it as if his teammate wasn't even there.
Right, exactly. He moves exactly the same as you watch them, the two together. They move in unison. That absolutely should not happen.
No. This is where he should be in the middle of this A here at this point. And making a leap for it rather than that, yeah. So, like you said, he's considered a first-round prospect in many circles, but you have him as a fourth-round guy.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take this from a different angle. After what we saw, if this is consistent to his tape, and you'll let me know whether it is or not, why is he as high as a fourth-round guy?
Yeah. Truth be told, I think this was one of his worst games, Mississippi being the other one. And I was looking at Auburn as well. There are some things I didn't like on that one either. I thought there were other examples where you got to see him more in the back end, and when he didn't take those false steps, he's able to make plays. When he played tight ends, which obviously you're not going to see against Mississippi State, he can clearly carry those guys around the field. So there is some usage for him there. But the stuff in the box with him missing tackles, leaving his feet like that, that's pretty consistent. His inability to recover once he is beaten, whether it's by sheer athleticism or by a mental error on his part, I think that's fairly consistent too. The having his kind of size, that works in his favor certainly. There just aren't that many safeties that have the baseline athleticism he has. He might not be a twitchy guy, but he does have the prerequisite long speed you'd hope for with a safety and things like that. So that certainly works in his favor too. But yeah, it's tough to look at that game in a vacuum and say, wow, that's a guy that's even going to be my number 3 at that stage.
Yeah, and I would say that, if you watch any more of his tape with some of the better efforts, what you will see is a guy that when he takes good angles, he can bring the load.
Sure, he can.
Definitely can. And if he comes down the line decisively, he's going to bring down a 230-pound back, before he gets started, or he's going to be able to cut off a seam route and catch the ball. He's very good at catching the football. I've noticed that about his tape, is that he's very consistent with being able to either come over top or undercut certain routes and make really nice adjustments from that standpoint. So there's a little bit of playmaker in him from those standpoints, and he definitely can be an enforcer. But like you said, and what we saw, if his worst moments, is he going to get there? Is he going to be confident in what he sees? And when he is, he looks really good. But when he's not, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, going back to this classification of him being a box safety. I like to joke on Twitter that the NFL is still completely infatuated in love with the box safety. Defensive coordinators love it because they've got this enforcer in the middle that kind of brings fear into the wide receivers, tight ends, anyone going through their area. And offensive coordinators love it because it's so easy to exploit them in coverage.
Yeah.
and that's played out time and time again the last few years. You look at some of these box-style safeties that have really struggled at the next level. My comp to him was Matt Elam, who was a first-round pick from Baltimore a couple years ago out of Florida. Elam was a smaller kid, similar athleticism, not real twitchy kid. Had major struggles in the back end, a lot of it instincts, a lot of it he just couldn't get in the right position. And what he was known for is coming forward, making all these big hits. Well, less so with Landon Collins, I'll give him credit for this, but with a guy like Elam now, when you have a guy coming forward, leaving his feet, not only is he missing tackles, but when he's connecting, he's getting personal fouls. That's huge. That's a huge play now. So even that we have to look at with a bit of hesitancy in terms of how much we really value that anymore.
Yeah, I think that it's I think that what's great about having you on this show and that you chose Landon Collins to do is that you are bringing an alternate perspective to a player who, if he's getting regarded as a first-round talent, something that should, give you valid points that should have you, pause a little bit before you're like all in on this guy. And so there are a lot of valuable things that I felt like that you brought up tonight, Josh, and I really do appreciate you having being on the show. And hopefully again we'll get to do this. I'm going to be doing this every week. Love to have you on again. We can look at guys either from this particular class even before or after the draft, or even if during the summer, early fall, we can get to the 2016 class. So
hey, absolutely, that sounds great.
Okay, great. Well, for Josh Liskowitz at GM Junior, you can find Josh. What's your Twitter handle? Is your name?
It's my name, at Josh Liskiewitz, JoshLiskiewitz. There
you got it. Go ahead and follow him. He's going to give you some really good analysis. You're going to see pretty much every day from him. And check out the rest of the GM Junior crew. They have a draft guide. I would definitely recommend anyone to take a look at that and to purchase it. It's very worthwhile. And for Josh Liskiewitz, I'm Matt Waldman. Before I lose my voice, you guys have a good weekend. Take care.